G'day there guys, it's Connie here again from Marky Industries and we're back with some more stories from Reddit. Sorry for that brief hiatus there, I was on holiday in Utah and it was beautiful. Anyway, we're back, so sit back, relax and enjoy. Alrighty folks, on relationships, this one was written by user Scared of a Snake and it's titled, My husband abruptly adopted a Burmese python. It terrifies me and I want to rehome it. Maybe this would be more appropriate on r/snakes, but this problem is less about the python itself and more about my relationship with my husband, so personally I don't think so. 6 months ago, our corn snake unexpectedly died. My husband and I were both very upset. He was a cute little guy and still very young. My husband has owned several small reptiles during his lifetime, and he told me he was thinking of trying a milk snake this time instead of a corn or a garter. Instead, 2 months after our corn died, he came home with a baby Burmese python. Apparently it's always been his dream to own a Burmese. Not only am I ticked that he got something like that without consulting me, on the upside where we live they are legal, but I had several reservations that have only grown since we've owned it. I have GAD and that thing triggers my anxiety like no other. When I was doing research about Burmese pythons, I kept reading stories about them killing pets, children and even their owners. So now I'm freaked out and have barely slept for 4 months. This is made worse by the fact that my husband has no experience with large snakes, and the larger the python grows, the more it shows, and also by us having a cat. The other snakes we've had, our corn snake and my husband's old garter snake, posed no threat, but now I constantly worry that the python is going to get out and eat her. I've taken to locking the cat in our bedroom at night, which interferes with our sleep since she meows and scratches at the door, and I constantly worry about her when she's home alone. I'll reiterate, this thing is frickin' huge. He is already 6 feet long. I'm home more than my husband, so I have to feed it and change its substrates often. I hate doing both, so much, especially now that he's graduated to eating rabbits and pigs. I honestly think that since my husband bought him without consulting me, that caring for it should be his sole job, but I'm not going to let it go hungry or live in its own waste out of pride. I honestly don't think we'll be able to give this snake the best quality of life, which I think is essential for all pets. He's getting too big for the tank he's in, which is his third since we've gotten him, and I don't think we have the room in our house for the enclosure my husband wants to build him. His food is very expensive and eating into our savings, but it's what he needs, so we can't downgrade. The python does not deserve to live in a tiny space and eat inadequate food because my husband wanted one as a kid. At the same time, it's a good possibility it could eat us out of house and home. I don't want kids while we own a python, and these things can live up to 20 years. I don't want to never have children, which I've dreamed of, because of a python. Because of all these reasons, but especially the ones about our cat and its quality of life, I think we should rehome the python, preferably to a wildlife sanctuary or something. I've gently brought all of this up to my husband, how much mental anguish it causes me, how worried I am for our cat, and how the snake is unsustainable. And all he's done is tell me to get over it, accuse me of not caring about his happiness, and tell me I'm being prejudiced against animals that aren't cute and cuddly. None of this is true, not even the last accusation. I liked his smaller snakes a lot. How can I communicate productively with my husband about this issue? He already loves this snake, and I think that's getting in the way of him seeing reason. Wow, geez, I mean, getting a garter snake without, asking your partner about it is one thing, and probably something you can look past, but getting a Burmese python that's already 6 feet long? Geez, that's a big commitment. Opie's definitely not in the wrong for feeling the way she does, the husband is, and like Opie said, his passion is getting in the way of reason here. Let's see what the comments think. You're in the right here. A Burmese is a huge dangerous constrictor. They're one of the thickest and strongest of such snakes. Does your husband know what to do if the snake attacks? Does he have a tranquilizer ready? Or worst case, a knife? My school took in an illegal reticulated python as part of an amnesty agreement with the former owner. We were licensed to have it and knew how to take care of it. I was feeding it one day with tongs, which were about 3 feet long, and something happened. Thankfully, there was a hot water tap nearby. The snake only threw 2 coils around my arm, and I didn't have to sacrifice it. I don't believe in killing any animal unless there is no other alternative, or in the case of euthanasia. But I do have minor nerve damage in that hand which will never heal. Large constrictors like this are illegal in many areas because they are dangerous and many people get them not understanding that. Tell him that you will not tolerate the snake, and you don't care about his happiness? Wow, he doesn't care about yours or the safety of the household. If I were you, I would consult a university or zoo, explain the situation, and have someone come collect the snake. F him. You've brought this up gently and logically, and he accuses you of not caring about his happiness? Wow. Personally, I think the only way to get the man to see reason now is, it's me or the snake, and one of us will be gone by this date. Opie replies, well, I'm not going to pretend that I was a saint during all of these conversations. I've cried while telling him my concerns after he initially didn't listen to me because of how scared I am and out of frustration, and I have raised my voice with him, but only after he did first. I personally hate ultimatums, but I'm starting to think one might be necessary, yes. Nope. You're avoiding an ultimatum when he brought home a huge animal that could live 20 years without even asking you first. Oh, it's my dream. Wah. You know what? I've always wanted to do a lot of things, but here in the real world, when you make commitments and have responsibilities, your childish dreams don't trump everyone else's health, happiness, and finances. The snake is dangerous, and your husband should honestly be ashamed of himself. I've worked with animals most of my adult life, and I'm very passionate about wildlife. In my opinion, no private owner has any business nor any right to own an animal like this. It is brazenly stupid and irresponsible. I know that you know this, but you need to understand that it's not you and your crazy brain making up anxieties. I love snakes. I would love to be able to interact with a python like the one you have. I would never, ever own one. It's unethical and irresponsible, and yes, dangerous for someone who is not a very advanced reptile keeper. If he could just bring it home one day without consulting you, why are you so cautious about taking it back? His decisions don't get to trump yours. You should have brought it back the day he came home with it. Your answer is no. He doesn't get to crazy talk you and whine about his boyhood dream. You are his wife and his partner, which means no major household decisions get to be made by only one person. Period. Take the snake back. Neither of you have any business taking care of it. The thing is going to live 20 years, and your husband is an insane man-child. This is why pet owners baffle me. People bring home an animal that's going to live the next decade or more, cost thousands of dollars in maintenance and vet bills, and yet they don't even know where they'll be living once their lease is up in 6 months. It's mind-blowing how selfish and irresponsible people are. If you're not down with taking the snake without his knowledge, I see the only option being you need to stay at your mum's with the cat for a long weekend. Leave him a letter with some printed out research. Tell him he can think about it for a few days, but you cannot live with the snake. Detail your reasons. I wasn't consulted before you brought it home. Am I your wife? Do you value me as a partner? Then I was owed a phone call and consultation about the snake. If you don't ask, you don't get to keep. It's expensive. Once again, you were not consulted as an equal partner about the joint commitment that keeping the snake was going to be. You do not agree to the terms. You know how much the snake costs, and you're not going to pay for it anymore. You would like to save for a child or a house, and the money being spent on the snake was not a jointly decided marital decision. The snake is dangerous, and you're both unqualified to properly care for it. Print out some research to back this up and invite him to read it. If things are going to determine his happiness, maybe he needs to reevaluate his life, your marriage, and mental health. Maybe he's the one who needs medication if he's going to equate ownership of something he wants with happiness. The cat was in the house first, and therefore the cat's safety needs to be prioritized. You don't like the snake, you don't want it, and you are afraid of it. Telling you to go on medication like a crazy person for voicing a very reasonable concern is cause for you to reconsider your marriage. If this is how he's going to be at any time you disagree, maybe you don't need to be married. He's failing you as a husband, and he does not get to play the medication card any time he disagrees with your emotions. He is not the gatekeeper and rule maker about what feelings you're allowed to have. The heart and soul of this issue is not the snake. It's your husband's shocking lack of respect for you, shown at every turn. Just bringing the snake home was disrespectful. I would be insulted. He doesn't care about your wants or needs, and he has insisted this at every turn. He has used every childish bullcrap excuse out there to stomp all over your feelings. He doesn't care that you don't feel safe in your own home. This is a problem. You need to take some time to yourself, get away from the snake and from him. Leave him a note, go do something you enjoy, And maybe being gone will emphasize to him how much responsibility he thrusts on you for an animal you didn't even know he was going to get. The end. You're being treated like a doormat. It's time to start throwing up some boundaries and ultimatums here. Yeah, some strong words in the comments section, but hard to disagree. What do you guys think? Opie comments on her husband's rebuttals to her arguments, and then we'll go to an update. Here they were. As far as worrying about the python getting out and killing the cat, or future kids or us, he said, I won't let it get out. You need to go on new anxiety medication. Never mind the fact that both the corn and the garter escaped from their tanks. He said, well, what are you going to do? Let it starve just because you don't like it? That's cruel. He says that we have room for the enclosure and that we'll find money to keep buying it food. He says I'm ridiculous to not want babies while we have a python and says everything will be fine. I don't find any of his rebuttals particularly compelling because they're just, no, that won't happen, to a concern of mine without explaining why it won't happen. Yeah, he's in denial. Okay, on to that update. First of all, I have to say thank you for the outpouring of support I got, especially from the reptile enthusiasts who happened to be browsing this sub. You guys are awesome. Now, I just want to say at the beginning, so what everyone wants to hear is heard. The snake is gone and my cat is alright. Here's how it happened. Thursday night, while I was replying to people in my post, several people were suggesting talking to my husband's friend, who owns Burmese pythons, is an experienced reptile keeper, and could be a huge help. I was too blinded by the situation and my own anxiety to even think of that. I messaged him on Facebook Thursday night and told him the situation. He was shocked at just how bad things were, but apparently he tried to warn my husband that owning small snakes and then jumping to a Burmese is like thinking owning house cats makes you qualified to own a tiger, but my husband didn't listen. He's been busy going to reptile shows. Dude breeds venomous cobras, he's kinda cool. So he only saw the snake in person once when we just got it, and was immediately disturbed when I told him about the overfeeding, my husband's desire to start it on live food, and the fact that it free roams and is handled alone. He told me he'd come over the next day on Friday and give my husband a real talking to, as well as do anything he could to help us rehome it. I decided I couldn't live another day in the house like that, and neither could my cat, so Friday morning I moved out to my mother's while my husband was at work. It was a bit sneaky, but I knew that if I tried to leave while he was home, he'd try to convince me to stay. I called him on his lunch break though, and told him I'd left until the snake was gone. He was very upset, but started accusing me of being so petty as to let a snake wreck our marriage. I had nothing productive to say to that, so I told him I'd talk to him later. Well, my husband's friend was so angry at what he saw of the snake that when he got to the house when my husband was home from work, he gave him the tongue lashing of his life, and told him in plain terms that now that he saw how woefully inadequate we were as big snake keepers, that there was no way he was going to let the snake stay at our house. Being yelled at really affected him. When my husband drove over to my mother's to talk to me, he looked like a kicked puppy. He broke down and told me that he loved me, that he was sorry for the hell he'd put me through, and that it had taken having reason yelled to him by an expert for him to really see what was going on, and that he understood now that the snake could no longer live with us. I know that at that point that the sorrow he felt was due to having his snake taken away, not of real understanding. Not yet. So don't worry, he's not completely off the hook. It was cathartic to hear though. His friend contacted a herpetology society he works with regularly, and then a member of that society whose specialty is rehabilitating snakes that irresponsible pet owners get and then mistreat on his ranch. So Snake went yesterday to this guy's ranch, where he'll be fed the right food, and go on a diet apparently, and live in a space big enough for him. My husband and I have talked a lot about this, and he acknowledged that his fervent desire to fulfill his childhood dream made him careless and selfish, that he wasn't trying to be malicious towards me, but he just wanted the snake so badly he'd do and say anything to keep it. It still seems like though that he hasn't learned, which I'm not expecting this early, but it's still quite disappointing. He talked yesterday about getting a ball python, and I put my foot down. I don't think we should get another snake for a long time. On Sunday, I sat him down and asked him to tell me the truth of how he got the python, because walking into a pet shop for a milk snake and just finding a Burmese was sounding more and more implausible the more I thought about it. He admitted that he had arranged to get one with a breeder online while he was telling me he wanted a little snake, meaning he was actively lying to me. This breeder is also a state away, meaning my husband participated in something illegal when he met up with him to get it, since transporting Burmese pythons across state lines is against the Lacey Act. I'm very angry about this. I'm upset about his lies, and I'm upset that he blew me off for months. He admitted he lied just because he knew I'd say no, which shows such an immaturity that almost disgusts me. I'm upset that he broke the law. I'm upset that he only listened to what I told him when it came from someone else. Apparently he's been having a quarter-life crisis that he didn't tell me about because he feels that he should have accomplished more with his life at 26. He never went to college. I feel sympathy for him with that, but that's no excuse to treat me badly. I moved back home with Kitty last night, but our marriage is in severe jeopardy right now due to the lying and the lack of respect my husband has shown me. But I made vows to stick with him, and I don't take those lightly. We're going to be getting counselling, which I hope will make him really see what was wrong with what he did, rather than a knee-jerk response to being in trouble, so to speak, and will strengthen us. If not, well, I'll have to consider my options. P.S. People were saying in the other post that we were actually feeding the snake guinea pigs and that I was lying to make the snake look bad. Well, I was fudging the truth, but not the way. We were feeding it dead piglets. My husband's cousin owns a working ranch with several pigs, and my husband was buying them from him for a pretty penny. I didn't want to say because I thought people would focus on the snake eating baby animals and start calling for its blood instead of offering me advice. Yeah, probably a fair judgment from Opie on that front. It's definitely not an image I want to think about. But yeah, definitely sounds like the husband's got a little bit more waking up to do here. Let's go to another update. Hi, I'm back. The snake is still gone, but I guess I'm coming back out of desperation. People messaged me wanting to know how I was doing anyway. On the surface, therapy has been going well. My husband has been doing everything right. He's been contrite, open-minded, and treats me like a princess at all times. I can tell at home that he's making a conscious effort to listen to my opinions and thoughts and incorporate our therapist's suggestions into our lives. I feel like the hugest bee saying this, but I don't think it's enough. Over these past weeks, I've had to come to terms with the fact that something about how I view my husband has fundamentally changed. And finally, after extensive soul-searching a few days ago, I realized what it was. I have no respect for his intelligence anymore after all of this. That is very, very important to me. And now it's just gone, and I don't know how it can come back without him getting a personality overhaul. It's killed my physical attraction to him. I normally have a high libido, and prior to all this, we made love 4 to 5 times a week. Now, since all this went down, we've been intimate 3 times. To be fair, while Snake was here, we were down to 2 or 3 times a week, but it was still more frequent than this. Despite all the changes he's making, he's still himself, and I don't think I can like who I know him to be now. He's still his goofy, absent-minded self who needs me to balance the checkbook and pack his lunch. I can't respect that anymore. I don't want to be his mum or a naggy sitcom wife. I used to love doing these things for him. Throughout our relationship, I've taken care of him, patched him up, and helped him solve his problems. I always saw it as the ultimate expression of love. Now I'm just sick of it. He can tell something's still wrong. He's irritated about my lack of forgiveness and lack of a sex drive lately when he's objectively doing all the right things, but his lack of understanding towards my apprehension makes my feelings even more pronounced. I realised the other day that I love him dearly as a friend. I've known him since I was 9 years old, but no longer as a husband. That devastates me. I can't believe I'm thinking divorce after less than a year of marriage. I feel like such a failure. I haven't broached these feelings in therapy yet because they crystallized only a few days ago, but I don't know how to start because I know saying them will mean my marriage will be over. I've talked to my mum and friends about this, and they all tell me to wait longer, to stick it out, because I made vows, but I feel like I found out something fundamental about my husband that I wish I never had, and that nothing can be the same now. Wow, I mean, I could be wrong, but usually revelations like this happen, well before you get married, if you've known the person long enough. And Opie knew this guy for a long amount of time, so yeah, it's pretty devastating to, come to this realization a year after your marriage. But yeah, this thing definitely does happen, and you see it all the time, and there's never a right time for it. Let's read some more comments. Bring this up in therapy. For sure, it doesn't have to mean the end of your marriage, but your husband needs to know where you are right now. I'm sure he's feeling it and is probably really confused because in his eyes, and yours, he's trying very hard to make amends. Bring it up in therapy first and see what comes out from both of you. Maybe you just need to get this off your chest. Maybe it's the beginning of the divorce. Opie replies, "Yeah, of course I'm going to talk about this in therapy. Our next appointment is Monday. The part of me that still cares about him so much wants to believe he'd change, but I also know he's very stubborn, and I don't know if it's possible. I have no idea how to feel right now." So the issue is you still see him as childlike and you need to be his caretaker. That's understandable, but I think he needs a chance to be told these are your views before throwing in the towel. If he still expects you to do basic things and have no autonomy after going over this in therapy, then I'd consider divorce. It's one thing to help your partner, it's another thing to be incapable of being self-sufficient. Opie replies, "I am going to bring it up, no worries. Another problem too is that despite all the motions he's going through, it feels like he still doesn't really get why what he did was wrong, and he's just responding to that, 'uh-oh, she's mad at me' instinct. I worry that his inability to get it will make it so incidents like this will happen again and again." I get it. You thought he was smart, and helping him with all that stuff was like helping an absent-minded professor. You thought you could depend on his intelligence for your family. Now you feel like there may be a bunch of random odd incidents happening in the future with nothing to counteract that. And frankly, his cruelty towards you about it, and his ability to live with you being so upset, probably just add to the picture. I can't say you're wrong, OP. Opie replies, "Yeah, a huge problem is that I can just envision this happening over and over, and my nerves being frazzled for the rest of my life." Let's put it into perspective. When you meet someone for the first date or whatnot, you would never think of dating seriously or at all a guy who seemed dumb, helpless or irresponsible. You meet a guy and he can't do simple things to take care of himself and his logic seems bad. Nope, you walk away. Now, just say you got past that point and you're in the dating phase, first 3 years or so. You might let stupid BS slide when you start to notice it, but you could just be seeing what you want to see and ignoring the rest. Let's say you marry someone and then you start to realize you picked a life partner with crappy judgment, a dum-dum, someone who needs a mother at the age of 21. Nope, red flag. Now, instead of being a lone ranger in the journey of life, fighting your own fights and helping yourself out, you're expected to take care of a moron. You go about your day putting out fires and trying to succeed in your goals only to come home to and constantly worry about the bad decisions of your lover. They aren't a partner, they are a chore. They aren't a teammate, they are a problem. They aren't a source of support, they are a source of strife. Talk to your therapist though and have them talk to you about the process of divorce and help you solidify your reasons why it needs to happen. Neither of you should stay in a relationship where it lacks mutual respect and admiration, trust and support. Yeah, some solid advice in that comment section. Alrighty, lucky us, we get an update 9 years later. Basically, my ex-husband brought home a Burmese python after telling me he wanted a milk snake. I was really scared of it and anxious, and he was dismissive of my worries. I ended up getting the snake shipped off to a reptile ranch, but it absolutely shook my trust in my ex because he was lying to me. It also made me realize he relied on me to do everything for him, like a second mother, and that I hated that. I really tried to work through the feelings I posted in the second update, but after 3 months, we separated. It's totally okay if you judge me for this because I judge myself. After being separated for half a year, we ended up having sex. My grandma had just died. I was devastated, and he came to the funeral to support me, and because he'd known her forever and loved her too. We went home together after the family lunch, and we ended up having comfort sex. Neither of us wanted kids at that point, but my IUD had slipped into my cervix at some point before this, and I ended up getting pregnant. Both of us were unsure about introducing a kid into our relationship, but decided to get back together and make another effort. I'd always wanted to be a mum and didn't want to abort. We found out pretty early into the pregnancy that it was actually a molar pregnancy, meaning that instead of a normal fetus, I was pregnant with a tumour. I had the mole removed, but I was one of those lucky people who develops cancer from their molar pregnancy. Luckily, the cancer was caught when I was only at stage 2, and responded really well to chemotherapy. I've been cancer-free since 2016. However, my ex's behaviour when I was extremely sick from chemo, we had stayed together after losing the pregnancy, caused me to put my foot down and want a divorce. He wouldn't or couldn't pick up the slack around the house, and I couldn't deal with it anymore. I felt like I couldn't depend on him for anything, Not even when I had cancer. Literally a week after I was told I was cancer-free, I told him I was moving out and wanted a divorce. I lived with my mum for a year while our divorce was being finalised and a bit after it, and then decided to get a job in a new city because I needed a new beginning. I also decided to fulfill a dream of mine I'd been mulling over for a while and went back to college to get my BSN in 2017. I graduated in 2019 because I was in an accelerated program for people who already have another degree, and I now work as a neonatal nurse. The job can be really wearing and difficult, but it's so amazing watching tiny and sick babies grow and thrive and eventually leave. I feel like I've found my calling. I also met a guy in my class when I went back to school. We were just friends for 2 years because I didn't feel ready to date, and then in 2019 we started dating. That guy is now my husband. We got married in 2022. My current husband is the most amazing man and partner I could have ever asked for. I can fully lean on him and him on me, and I don't have to ask him to please pick his socks up off the floor. He even does most of the cooking because I hate cooking. Due to my cancer treatment, I went into premature ovarian failure, so we're going to start IVF in the new year with eggs I'd frozen before my chemo began. We also want to adopt and/or foster at some point, and have been looking into that as well. I know for sure my husband is going to be a wonderful support for me and an amazing father. At the time of my divorce, I had no confidence my ex would be either of those things. I don't want to just bash my ex though. He's doing much better since we got divorced. A month after I left for good, he attempted suicide and was put on a 72-hour hold at the hospital. He took their advice to follow up with a psychiatrist seriously and was diagnosed with ADHD. It explains so much about how he was when we were together. A little later on, he was also diagnosed with autism. I don't speak to my ex because it's too painful for both of us, but my mum is still close to his mum and has given me some updates. He's taking medication that's really helped his ADHD and was able to go to trade school. He has a much better job now and has been in a steady relationship. I wish him all of the best. I look back on my old posts and all I can do is shake my head. I was putting up with so much I would never put up with now. I also thought I was so grown up because I was 24 and married, but clearly I still had maturing to do. Part of me feels sad for my ex too because he was struggling for so long and I was writing him off as unhelpful. However, even though he had a medical reason for being inconsiderate, I still had to do what's best for me, and I was at my breaking point. Considering his success, I think we're better off without each other. Oh, and I still talk to my ex's friend, the cobra breeder, from time to time. Bucatini the Burmese python is still doing great in his new home. And a great ending there. It's always a privilege to get an update like that so far on from the original post. It's just awesome to get all the big updates on everyone and wrap it up in a nice little bow. Anyway guys, that's the end of that story. I'd love to hear your thoughts about it down below. Do you guys own a pet python? Let me know. Anyway, moving on to another one. Alrighty guys, we're jumping over to Am I the A-hole? This one was written by user Visible Broccoli and it's titled, Am I the a-hole for breaking up with my fiancée for telling her best friend she was not engaged? My now ex-fiancée, 30 female, and me, male 27, got engaged 3 weeks ago. We've been dating for 5 years, and I finally got the money to give her the wedding she wanted. Well, 3 days ago we were discussing our guest list, and I asked if she wanted to invite her best friend. Let's call him James, 30. James lives in another state, but since they were friends for 10 years, I thought I could even pay for his travel expenses since it would be great to have her best friend at the wedding. She denied, saying that it would take a lot of work to bring him, and she wanted it to be a family event. Countless times she mentioned that James was like family to her, so I insisted, and she got annoyed and said, I didn't even tell him we were engaged. That took me by surprise. I tried to ask why, but she started stonewalling me and I left her alone. After a couple of hours, I tried to ask her again why she hasn't told him we were engaged, and she still refused to tell me, and I admit, my insecurity got the better of me. In the past, James had confessed he had feelings for her, which she turned down and basically friend-zoned him, but by the way she told me, it always sounded like she had him as a backup, something not only me but her exes realised. She married him online. They always made the WoW characters look like a couple, like wearing the same transmog and crap like that. When she had a fight with her exes, he was always there for her and etc. I told her that made me uncomfortable, and if she was not planning to tell him, she might as well consider herself single, because I would not marry someone who couldn't be honest. Yes, I was pretty immature, but she did something even more immature. She texted him while showing me her phone, something like, "Hey, just so you know, I was engaged, but not anymore," and sent it to him. I told her to pack her things and leave my house. Ever since she left, she's been calling me, but I refused to answer. My mum called me, because she apparently called my mum, and said that I was an a-hole for ending things for such a ridiculous thing. So, am I the a-hole? Nah, not the a-hole. She's definitely being really fishy here. Let's see what the comments think. Not the a-hole. There is a reason she won't tell her best friend that she plans on getting married. I mean, most women think getting married is one of the biggest things in life, and tells everyone she knows. Unless it will put a damper on something. You know, boyfriends hate hearing their girlfriend is getting married. Not the a-hole. She wanted to keep her backup plan intact. OP, do you provide most material things, including the house? Your post said my house. Are you paying down her school or other debt? Don't let anyone use you financially if their heart isn't in it too. Edit, I know a man whose wife left him a matter of weeks after she graduated. Guess whose cash put her through college? Opie says, yes, I pay for the house, bills and her car. She moved in 2 years ago. Other than that, she pays for her own things. So your ex-fiancée didn't want to tell her boyfriend about you. Unless you're poly, it sounds like a great reason to end an engagement. If you want to confirm that she was cheating, offer to meet up with her for lunch. When you get there, tell her if she wants any chance with you, she needs to unlock her phone, and you read all of her messages between him and her on all media. I'm sure you'll find more than enough to confirm that leaving is the best choice. Not the a-hole. She loves him and not you. The first chance she gets to monkey branch to him, she'll do it. You don't need any closure, and she doesn't deserve any. If she denies you now, she'll deny you later. I have a cousin who lost his wife to an online Evercrack affair that turned physical. It's not worth it. Respect yourself, because she sure as hell doesn't. Okay, straight to an update. Hey guys, I just got home after talking to my still ex-fiancée, and since a lot of people asked for an update, here it is. But I want to clarify a few things. As commented on my original post, I pay for the house since I bought it before dating her, and I asked her to move in since it was close to her job. I work from home since I'm in tech, but she had to go to work. That's why I paid for her car, to help her commute, and honestly her salary is crap. I was her partner, so I didn't see any problem with that. I thought she was the one, despite everything. She's smart, funny, we had chemistry, but I felt betrayed. To the update. We met at a coffee shop on the premise we would discuss how to save our relationship. At least, that's what she thought. As soon as we sat down, I asked to see their messages. She got defensive immediately and told me she had deleted everything. I asked to see her phone anyway. She started to cry, ugly cry, asking me to stop. At that point, I'd already decided I was not going to be a part of the relationship anymore, but damn, I was curious. It took a good 20 minutes for her to hand me her phone, a lot of crying, even a waitress asking her if she was okay. So, I read the messages. There wasn't any cheating like nudes being exchanged, them professing their love for each other, but what I read still stung. There was a lot of crap talking about me. A lot. Texts and texts of them saying how terrible of a person I was, criticizing my hobbies. I like video games and pro wrestling. Saying I wasn't a real man because of them and stuff like that. But there were 2 topics that caught my eye. One where she had told him I was having trouble getting hard and that was frustrating for her, and one where she was complaining about how she didn't want to be stuck in our relationship. Yes, I was having problems in bed, because I was sad my father had passed away 6 months ago, and the stuck thing, I remember telling her that when we got married, if she wanted she could leave her job, and I would provide for both of us. I don't know if she took this the wrong way, but I guess it was related to that. I honestly don't know. By the time I gave her the phone back, she was already giving excuses on why she was saying those things to him, how he was like a therapist for her, and then she asked me, "Don't you complain about me to your friends?" And I simply replied, "No, I don't." She started crying again. I took a pretty deep breath and just said, "Just give me the ring back." I didn't have the ring with me like some suggested. She hesitated a bit but gave it to me anyway. I stood up and asked her to delete my number and not to bother me anymore. I called her mum and asked her to pick up her daughter's stuff at my place. Her mum is a good person. I'm just realising I'm going to miss her as I write this. She understood why I decided to end it, but she didn't ask much, and to be honest, I'm glad she didn't. As for my mum, I didn't call her. I just blocked her for things unrelated to this post. I just realised she never had my back in anything. I was always trying to save an already failed mum-son relationship. Before I leave, I just want to clarify, I was never against her having male friends or any type of friends. People are going to cheat, friends or no friends. I remember my dad saying something to me when I was a teenager. He always said, "Opportunity makes the thief," but I do not agree with that. Anyway, since I have the next 2 weeks off of work, I'm going to figure out what to do with the wedding money, drink some booze, play games, and watch Monday Night Raw later. Peace. Edit, a couple of people are asking about the car. It's a 2015 Nissan Versa which she crashed 2 times. Both times she rear-ended someone. Never liked the car. Weak engine, the interior feels cheap and overall bad, so for all I care she can keep that piece of crap. I would have more luck throwing it off a cliff than selling it. Edit 2, little update. Her mum called me a few hours ago to check on me and to ask when she could come and pick up X's stuff. We spoke about the car and she basically forbid me to let her daughter keep the car because 1, I paid for it, and 2, X wouldn't be able to maintain it. So I'm going to keep the car until I'm able to sell it, God help me. Also, some people called the story fake because they said I wasn't a real man for playing games, and yet they played WoW. To be honest, that's on me because I wasn't very clear. The real man thing was more about the pro wrestling hobby than the gaming hobby, but in some messages they clearly mocked me for playing some games. Life is Strange series. In one I remember James saying something like, "How could a grown-ass man play such a girly game and cry?" Yes, I cried playing Life is Strange. I also cried at Red Dead Redemption 2. The I'm Afraid cutscene still makes me emotional. I'm a crybaby, I guess. Also, I want to thank everyone who messaged me to talk about wrestling and games. It really helped me take my mind out of everything. I haven't replied to anyone, but I intend to. If anything happens, I'll let you guys know. Be good people. Yeah, that I'm Afraid cutscene in Red Dead, gets me every time too. There's something about seeing a man as hardened as that come to realities, harsh realities, in such a tender way. Anyway, onto the story. Yeah, pretty good ending for OP here. Like, regardless of if she cheated or not, those texts are just the absolute disrespect. You can't marry someone who disrespects you like that. What do you guys think? Let me know your thoughts down below. Anyway, let's move on again. Okay, we're jumping over to Petty Revenge. This one was written by user Strange Marzipan, and it's titled, "The Kitten I Adopted Out of Spite." My then 15-year-old daughter and I visited the local Humane Society on a weekly basis. It was free therapy for her, as cuddling the kittens and watching them play was a great endorphin rush. We were in the kitten room when a little girl, maybe 6 or 7, entered with her father. I watched as she manhandled kittens, picking them up by their legs, hitting one on the head after it swiped at her, and listened to her whiny voice saying, "That one's ugly," or "Yuck, look at his eye, that's gross," about a kitten with an obviously healing eye injury. She eventually zeroed in on the only little orange and white kitten who was very chill despite her aggressive handling of it. She declared to her dad after a few moments that this was the one she wanted. Her dad asked if she was sure, and she said yes. She spent a few more minutes holding him up in the air, bouncing him around like a ball, and just really being a little crap. I stood up and went to the wall where all the cage cards were, and quickly found the sheet for the only orange kitten in the room. I took it out of the slot and sat back down. After a few more minutes, I walked up to the little girl and nicely said, "Can I please have him? We're adopting him." She glared at me and said, "No, he's mine." Her dad walked over and I said, "We'd visited him earlier. We even have his cage card. I'm sorry." He told his daughter to hand over the kitten and she'd lost her crap. She carried on and screamed like a spoiled brat for 5 minutes while holding onto the terrified kitten who was trying to get away. She only wanted the orange one and didn't like any of the other ugly kittens. It took her dad yelling at her to get her to finally throw the kitten across the room and stomp away. My daughter went and picked up the kitten, and long story short, Otis has now been happily living his best life in my home for 7 years, and we love him so much. My Facebook memory reminded me that today is the anniversary of his gotcha day. I hope the little Dumbo never got a kitten. Yeah, me too, for the kitten's sake. Let's read some final comments. We adopted a bunny once because he was too cute for his own safety. Husband volunteered regularly at the shelter, and Mr. Nibs was a cute little Netherland dwarf who was attracting people who really just wanted a stuffed animal. Last straw was when a family came in wanting to adopt him, but failed their interview after mentioning that their previous bunny had died because they forgot to feed or water it. At that point, we decided he needed to come home and live the rest of his days with us. Ended up bonding with 2 of our other boy bunnies, and the 3 of them were besties for years. We sprayed or neutered all of our bunnies, so he didn't have to be with the other boys. That's just who we ended up vibing with. Yeah, it wasn't intentional, but there's a bit of a neglectful pet owner theme happening in this episode. At least they've all got good endings for the animals, and the people, I suppose. Anyway guys, we're going to leave that one there. I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Anyway, that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed those stories. Thanks for making it to the end, and I'll see you all in the next video. Have a good day. Cheers.